This take-home project is really a challenge, but just try your best, keep an open mind, and mistakes are totally okay. Also, you can ask for help anytime you need it from either me at school or your parents at home. So, the challenge is that we are going to do a miniature weaving project. Weaving is a way to turn string or thread into something called fabric. Fabric is what we make blankets, clothing, pillowcases, coats, pants, you name it, anything that has been woven into fabric, either by a machine or by hand. Weaving has a really long history. People have been weaving for so many years, and so many different cultures and time periods change how we weave. Today, we are just going to make a simple mini weaving. You are going to need something called a loom. It looks like this. A needle and a threader tool. Some yarn. I apologize that it's such a mess, this yarn, but I included scissors so that you could pull off some of that yarn and cut it off of the mess. Let's talk a little bit about what a loom is. The square made from popsicle sticks is the loom. Like you saw in the pictures before, looms can be a lot bigger than this, and usually they are. The strings on the loom that go up and down are called the warp strings. When we start weaving the yarn in and out of these warp strings, that is the weft. So I like to remember it like this. The warp strings go warping down. The weft strings go left and right. It's kind of silly, but it really does help me remember which strings are which. Okay, let's get started. Step 1 is to pick a piece of yarn, any color, and tie it to the furthest string to the right on the bottom. You are going to probably want to practice your double knots for this project. I'm going to try to teach you the double knot, but you might need help with it, and that is totally okay. So, here I am messing with this mess of yarn, and I just happened to pull out a piece that's already a nice length. You don't ever want to pick a piece of yarn or cut a piece of yarn that's too long. It gets tangled really easily. Anyway, with our piece of yarn, we are going to tie a double knot around the right string. But we're going to keep the knot at the bottom. Each knot, you are going to make an X with the two different strings. Wrap one of the legs of the X around the other string and pull it tight. So watch this. Here are my two strings. I'm going to cross them, and I'm going to wrap the shorter string around the other through the hole. It's actually the same first step of tying your shoes before the bunny ears, but you're going to do it twice. Now, when that knot is tied, you are ready to weave this weft through the warp strings. Woo! Lots of words there. We need to get the end of this yarn through that eye of the needle. And we're going to use a really fancy piece of paper called a threading tool. Pretend the threading tool is a hot dog bun, and the yarn is a hot dog. Put the yarn in the threading tool and pull it just a little bit to hide the end of that hot dog. Just like that. It's still in there, but you can't see the end. And then you are going to tuck this piece of paper with the hot dog in it through the eye of the needle. It makes it a lot easier than trying to eyeball it. It's up to you if you want to double knot the string now to make it stay on the needle. I am not going to tie a knot because I would have to cut it every time I want to change colors or every time that I want to add more string. So I'm just going to hold it with my hand as I weave back and forth. Now, what I like to think about when I'm weaving like this is that the needle is a dolphin and it needs to jump over and under each string. Just like a dolphin jumps through the ocean, over and under. So my needle is staying in the loom, and I am tucking it under and over, under. Just like that. And I like to double check that I did it right before I pull the string through. So, keeping up the pattern, over, under, over, under. Yup, I've done it. I'm ready to pull the needle through the warp. I'm going to make sure that the thread doesn't slip out of my needle, so I'm going to hold it. And then I take my fingers and just tuck it down a little bit to make it look nice and neat. Let's go back the other way. We're gonna go like a dolphin, over, under all of these strings. Here we go. Over the first string, under the next, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, and under. Okay. Double check it. It's easy to make mistakes. Over, under, over, under. I didn't make any mistakes and accidentally go over, or under. So I'm ready to pull it through, holding that string at the needle eye so that it doesn't slip through. Be very gentle when you're pulling and tucking. Now we're ready to go back to the left. We always start with over, like a dolphin. Ready? One more time. Over, under. I wish I could do this more with the rhythm, but it is kind of tough. So I just take my time with it, and I just always make sure to double check that everything is right before I pull it through. I'm going to speed this up for you until I need a new string because I run out. Well, that was fast. Okay, so I am basically out of string right now. It could go back one more time, but I want to leave plenty of room to tie my double knot. That's how we're going to add more length to this string. Oh my gosh, what a yarn monster here. Oh, but I got really lucky again, and I pulled out a nice, kind of short string. It's a really pretty color here. And I am going to cross the two ends, tuck one over, and just pull a little bit at first. And to do the double knot, I repeat it. Cross, tuck, whoop, tuck, and pull tightly. Now I have a lot more string to work with. I am going to use my threading tool to put this crazy tail into that needle and continue sewing and adding different colors every time I run out of yarn. You know, this is where you really can be creative with weaving in this project. You can choose the colors, and also you can choose how big you want your stripes. Your weaving is probably going to turn out striped when it's done. And you get to decide what colors are going to be the thickest that you use. So that's where you can do your own thing. I made a mistake here. When I pulled my needle through the warp strings, it looked wrong. So as you can see, it looked like I only wove about 4 strings and made a mistake there. So I'm just gonna notice it, acknowledge it, and take a second to unweave my mistake. Thread the needle again, and just continue forward. Okay, I have rewound my weaving until there's no more mistake. I'm ready to just keep jumping over and under these warp strings like a dolphin. And I'm just going to be patient with myself, take a break if I need to, and ask for help also if I need to. You will notice that the little tails of your double knots are going to start sticking out everywhere. Don't worry about them right now. Just keep them out of the way and keep weaving all the way to the top of the warp strings. We're going to cut them when we're all done, which, by the way, I'm finally almost all done. It's getting crazy tight up here in my warp strings. So if this happens to you, you might want to actually turn this into sewing. Pulling it through vertically up and down like you're sewing. I'm not quite ready to take that much time. I think I can force it, use my hand muscles to keep weaving the regular way. I'm probably going to go about 2 or 3 more times, and then I'll be all done and ready to tie a knot on the last warp string. Cut all the tails off. Okay, I've taken the needle off of my yarn because I can't weave it anymore. The warp strings are too tight. And this is also where you might need some help. You are going to double knot the end of this yarn, the last piece of yarn you used, around the last warp string you ended on. So there we go, got my double knot. And the last step is to take a moment and go cut those little tails off of the double knots on both sides. We are going to leave our weaving on its loom. The way that I tied the knots of the warp strings means that if we took this off of the loom, it would unravel, sadly. But I thought that the popsicle sticks are a cool frame for this cute mini weaving. So hopefully you like that idea. And you can hang this up, put a magnet on the back, or just have it to feel. It's got a great texture. Remember that word, how something feels? It feels really cool. And I really hope you enjoyed this project, even though it was quite a challenge. I can't wait to see what you do with it. Bye-bye.